Hello, and welcome to Loose Threads, a true crime podcast that goes behind the scenes of some of the most fascinating and frustrating missing persons cases in America, and the unusual and driven people who insert themselves into these mysteries. Why do people insert themselves into criminal cases, and what consequences have they and others suffered as a result? Does it ever really help? As someone who has been there and done that, I may be uniquely qualified to explore these topics. So join me as we investigate the many twists and turns of public advocacy in American justice. Today, we're diving into two modern cases where social justice warriors stepped in, determined to uncover the truth, only to face unexpected and sometimes destructive consequences for their involvement. These stories highlight the risks of advocacy in active investigations, and they may make you question where the line is between helpful intervention and harmful interference. Case 1: The Delphi Murders. Few cases in recent history have sparked as much public involvement as the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German in Delphi, Indiana. Since their tragic deaths in 2017, the case has drawn an enormous number of amateur sleuths, online theorists, and justice seekers eager to solve the mystery. But what happens when passionate advocacy turns into obsession? When private citizens and independent investigators cross a line and find themselves under scrutiny, accused of meddling, or even targeted by law enforcement? Today, we're featuring a first-hand account from Jimmy King, a psychic medium who became deeply involved in the Delphi investigation. His intentions were good. He sought justice. But the backlash he faced raises important questions about public involvement in criminal cases. Here is his statement. My name is Jimmy King, and I'm a psychic medium. The Delphi murders of Abby Williams and Libby German on February 13, 2017 were the first case I ever touched. Through remote viewing, I saw events unfold in real time, leading me to details I never expected to know. It all started when Julie Melvin, a YouTube podcaster, contacted me for a reading on the case. What I saw and heard during that session pulled me in deeper than I could have imagined. I named a potential suspect based on a name I heard in my work. Years later, Julie discovered a man by that exact name, trying to verify his identity to her. While he wasn't directly connected to the girls, his involvement in the case was eerie, especially after he told my co-investigator that he had a dream he killed the girls. Julie Melvin turned my tip into the FBI. Agents visited my job, my children's school, my family, and my friends. Although they cleared me, the investigation came at a cost. The weight of the case affected my personal life, forcing me to step away. Jimmy King's story highlights an important reality. True crime cases often attract those who hope to help, but the personal stakes can be high, unpredictable, and even damaging. In our next segment, we'll discuss another case where outsider involvement took an unexpected turn: the disappearance of Michael Vaughan. Michael Vaughan, a 5-year-old boy from Fruitland, Idaho, vanished in July of 2021, sparking a massive search effort. Leaked body cam footage has surfaced, showing police on a FaceTime call with a suspect who claimed to know where Michael's body was buried. Yet despite these claims, his remains have not been found, and the case remains tangled in controversy. Much like Delphi, outsiders got involved in Vaughan's case. Online advocates, independent investigators, and true crime activists inserted themselves into the search, leading to a complex web of speculation, misinformation, and law enforcement pushback. One such individual shared their experience with me, an experience that left them questioning the very nature of advocacy in crime investigations. True Crime with Eve is an accountant turned true crime web sleuth who deep dives into chilling cases, unsolved mysteries, and the darker side of human nature. She uncovers the facts, explores the evidence, and brings justice back into focus, one case at a time. Welcome, Eve.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Eve covers many true crime cases, and she's had some of the same experiences with the families that I have. Can you explain some of the consequences that you have suffered as a result of your true crime advocacy?
So, many of the cases that I cover are sensitive in nature, meaning that there are missing children involved that are presumed unalived, people who have gone missing under suspicious circumstances, where there's a lot of scrutiny that the family or a family member may be involved. So, it is very easy to scrutinize people who cover those cases, such as I do. There have been times where I have been threatened. My family members have been threatened for having an opinion or proving a false statement by maybe a witness or someone close to the family or the family members themselves. So there's a lot of risk in doing that. And that includes being doxxed, harassed, and things like that, which I have experienced habitually. So it's not very easy to cover these cases. And I think that that's the risk that we take. However, it should not be the norm. And I think that that's what we're seeing.
Why do you think that the parents or family members respond in this manner?
Well, the first thing is that if they're actually innocent of any wrongdoing, of course, you want, as a human being, to stand your ground and protect your family and protect your family's name, and also not have that backlash from others who may follow suit with someone who thinks that they are involved. But the more common theme that I am seeing is that there is some truth that's striking nerves. And when that happens, the first retaliation method is to blame the person saying it, whether it be you prove a timeline discrepancy that they have habitually said is a fact, or news comes out that something they said wasn't in fact true. So I think that it's just common sense that they might have been offended by the fact that you have outed them publicly that there is something wrong in the case that you're covering. And sometimes that will involve them triggering a response from people around them to come after you, which is what I have been dealing with for quite some time.
Do you feel social media advocacy for true crime victims affects the case negatively?
I believe that there have been a few experiences over time that it has affected the family and their well being mentally and emotionally, and having more of a burden to try to prove themselves not involved, which, there is a line that a lot of people cross. However, there is a responsibility for us to be as candid as possible and try to be as factual as possible. And sometimes those just don't mix. So if you cover a sensitive case, there's risk there on both sides. But to answer your question, I believe that there is very little hindrance in the actual investigation. In fact, statistics show that people who are hired by either outside sources like family members or even the police or law enforcement agency hinder the case more so than just public scrutiny or someone with a YouTube channel covering the case.
Well, Eve, you certainly are a ferocious social media warrior, and you have done tremendous work on many, many cases. Please visit her YouTube, True Crime with Eve. Thank you for joining us, Eve. It was fascinating to hear your story.
Thank you for having me.
The Michael Vaughan case demonstrates how quickly outsider involvement can spiral into controversy, misinformation, and unintended consequences. The question remains, is public advocacy helping or causing more harm than good? After hearing these stories, one thing is clear: true crime cases attract outsiders. Some contribute valuable insights, others spread misinformation, unintentionally obstructing investigations. The line between advocacy and interference is thin, and crossing it can have serious repercussions. In historical cases like Lindbergh and Eaton Patz, we saw how hoaxers exploited missing persons investigations for personal gain. In modern cases like Delphi and Michael Vaughan, social justice warriors faced backlash, scrutiny, and even potential legal consequences for their involvement. These cases show that true crime is more than just a mystery. It's a tangled web of advocacy, controversy, and sometimes unintended destruction. This raises an important question. Should outsiders get involved in active investigations? Do they have a moral responsibility to help? Or is their presence more often distracting than beneficial? I've seen both sides. I've faced harassment and threats, and I've also witnessed moments when outsiders really did uncover critical details. It's a delicate balance and one worth discussing. Do you think public involvement helps investigations, or does it create more harm? Let me know in the comments, Threaders. I really want to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Loose Threads. In upcoming episodes, we'll continue to explore true crime cases with outsider involvement and my involvement in the Dior Coons case. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a single exciting episode. Until next time, thanks for following Loose Threads.